All right, everyone, trolling is now officially illegal according to Robert Mueller. Now, of course, we got to talk about the findings yesterday of his probe. He comes out very mysterious all of a sudden, out of the middle of nowhere. Everyone's just going along calmly. It's another boring humdrum day. Robert Mueller comes up, oh, there's going to be an announcement. We're going to have Rosenstein making a speech. And everyone goes haywire. Oh, it involves Russians. Oh, my goodness, Trump is done for this time. This is it. Mueller's going to prove collusion. And it actually did basically the opposite, at least in regards to this. Now, there are misconceptions, many on the left, but there are also a few on the right. We need to clear those up. Number one, this is not the wrapping up of the entire investigation. Therefore, people in the Republican Party saying, oh, well, it's over, nothing else can possibly happen. This is, the evidence of collusion is that 13 Russian nationals trolled people and shitposted and bought Facebook ads, didn't even coordinate with Trump, and Rosenstein had to come out and say that straight up, and he did, and I'll address that. That's hilarious that it happened. This is not the end-all, be-all, though, of the whole investigation. No, you probably will see more indictments. It's just that Trump is not going to be one of the people indicted. People directly around Trump probably won't be indicted. Paul Manafort, he's getting in trouble for stuff that happened years before he even spoke with Trump about a campaign. And it involved money laundering with Tony Podesta. John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign chair, his brother. That one, that he was involved. He was directly named in the legal paperwork. Flynn, whose own problems go well beyond Russia, he was also having inappropriate contact with the Turkish government. Now, the Turks and the Russians get along more today, but again, it involved stuff that happened quite some time ago. It didn't involve Donald Trump's knowledge. They look into Jared Kushner. Apparently, there's nothing there because they haven't said anything further about that particular meeting. Maybe it's because the individual, the Russian involved, was a DNC loyalist attending some of their meetings. Maybe that's why. Who knows? In the wake of the Fusion GPS sort of FISA-gate material, this is the biggest revelation that we've had from the Mueller probe. All that it contains is that a group of loosely associated Russian nationals bought Facebook ads and trolled. And by the way, and here was the most mind-blowing part, according to Mueller, and progressives, beware, you're in for a scare. Mueller is now saying that they also favored Bernie Sanders. So see, they're bipartisan Russians. Now, I thought that Trump was colluding with the Russians. Why the fuck? Trump would not want to have gone up against Bernie Sanders. Trust me, he far preferred the idea of running against Hillary Clinton. She's predictable. It's easy. Bernie Sanders' message of economic socialism would have fallen on deaf ears. But as far as youth vote, oh man, he would have done way better. I still think Trump would have beaten him into the ground, but it would have been closer than the race that we saw in 2016. Sanders probably would have maintained Michigan because, the closest state within the Rust Belt. He could have maintained, North Carolina was fairly close, I think. He could have done well there because his wedge issues were less, racially based and more based on economic stuff. So maybe the people who jumped aboard the Trump train because they were tired of Hillary Clinton saying that they were evil for being white or whatever, they would have voted for Sanders more happily. That could have happened. But yeah, this is literally, I hate to use the term, but it's literally a nothing burger. Look, this shows in the report, Rosenstein is saying on live TV, yeah, we're not alleging any involvement by U.S. citizens. These are Russian nationals. We're not talking about Trump doing anything. We're not talking about anybody doing anything other than these individuals were apparently, they were using Kremlin money to fuck around with the election. But in their own summation, this is right there in the report. It says, it had no impact on the election. Now, they bought some Facebook ads with a few $100,000. They bought Facebook ads and they ran bot accounts. They trolled. They're Russian trolls. So it doesn't fucking matter. It did nothing. It didn't impact the election and it didn't go on with Trump's knowledge. It was happening during the primaries and involved also Bernie Sanders support. Now are you going to drag Bernie Sanders out and pillory him and say, well, he must be a Russian agent too and he needs to disavow the evil, horrible, despicable Russians? I had some in the wake of this. When I mentioned this yesterday on Twitter, I had some liberal. I won't mention names. A liberal on there saying, well, yeah, but Bernie Sanders doesn't say he's a friend of Russia. Neither does Donald Trump. Have you listened to him for the last year? He's not buddy-buddying with Putin. He goes over and meets with him. He shakes his hand, and people take it as a sign that he's Putin's pawn. He does normal diplomacy, and people read it entirely differently. If it was Obama shaking his hand, he wouldn't have a problem with it. If Sanders did, he wouldn't have a problem with it. What the hell did Trump ever do to convince you that there was Russian collusion in the first place? Trump didn't allege it. No sane person alleged it. There was no allegation of it until the DNC alleged it. Oh, Russians hacked our email server. You know, the one that BuzzFeed is suing to see right now. I bet they'll never even see it. The DNC is going to have to come out in this case probably and say, no, there was no Russian intrusion that we can prove. We don't have anything to give to BuzzFeed. Sorry, Your Honor, we can't give anything to them. It's very funny. And also, this was another funny part. Mueller's summation and Rosenstein sign off. Oh, these Russians were trying to undermine faith in U.S. democracy. How the hell does that undermine faith in democracy? If anything, the undermining faith in democracy, so you mean exactly what the media has been doing for the last year, proclaiming that the election was illegitimate. Now, Trump came out and said, well, you know, maybe I'll get shafted in this election. Some funny business will go on. Everyone in the media, all of the Democrats, most of the Republicans laugh it off and say, oh, it never happened. Since the time of the election, none of these people have said that. All they have been saying is there was collusion, there was influence, there was an attempt to hack some voting machine, there was an attempt to influence and undermine democracy. Russians everywhere, Reds under the bed. All you have done for the last year is undermine faith in democracy. By telling people, no, your vote was illegitimate. Those of you who voted for Trump, we don't care about you. You're not part of our country anymore. You're like supporting a Russian pawn or a Nazi or something. You're illegitimate. You're deplorable. You're irredeemable. But, you know, you were saying that during the election, too, in different words. In the most literal sense, in Hillary Clinton's fashion. You're the ones undermining democracy. Look, if you don't want the democracy undermined, why don't you have a little bit more transparency in government? Why don't you try being less outright evil and obviously slimy? Maybe that would help. Maybe instead of blaming your loss on Russia, you could own up to the fact that Hillary Clinton ran a shitty campaign. Throw her under the bus instead of, you know, trying to throw the whole country under the bus. Maybe you could do that. Jettison the dead weight from the Democratic Party. Admit that the FBI is not beyond reproach. It can make mistakes. There can be rogue agents there with a political bias that can affect the way in which the FBI functions. Nobody's saying the whole FBI is evil and terrible and everyone from the top down is colluding to deny, wonderful God Emperor Trump. No, we're saying a few rogue agents attempted to do that. Meanwhile, all the media can do is come out and say, well, Trump hates the FBI. He's trying to undermine faith in the FBI. It's just a bureaucracy. It's just an alphabet soup bureau. What are you talking about? I don't have to show loyalty to them. They're a bureau. Patriotism is loyalty to country, not loyalty to a government, to a bureau, to some government figure. Fuck that. It's not patriotism. That's called being a sheep, a little jackboot cog. That's what you are. That's what the legacy media is. But I'm not surprised. I'll tell you why. I think the legacy media, which has, with its businesses, its parent companies, its subsidiaries, all of the ties that it has to all of its wonderful friends everywhere in the world, it has ties to the establishment. Because they're literally joined at the hip. Money flows around like water through these people. They're probably afraid that Trump will out some of them. They're afraid that they'll be the next one to be exposed as scandalous. Because there are a lot of scandals. There's a lot of dirt to go around. Mueller's probes results here. That's not the end of the investigation, but it doesn't show any collusion. It shows that Mueller has been wasting his time. If this is his idea of a hot scoop, if this is, by the way, the idea of a hot scoop for the legacy media and the establishment, my goodness, you are so totally lost. You are so totally, it's a farce. It's worse than a farce. It's the worst, most stupid thing I've ever seen in U.S. politics. You spend millions of dollars in a year investigating with the full force of multiple intel agencies and full access, apparently for years, to basically everything associated with Trump. You find no evidence of collusion. You find evidence that 13 Russian fucking trolls liked him and Bernie Sanders more than these other candidates. Maybe it was because they were the only two that didn't want to start World War III. Have you ever thought of this possibility? And so they bought some Facebook ads. They had Kremlin cash, they bought Facebook ads. Wow, that's illegal now. You can't buy Facebook ads anymore if you're not a U.S. citizen. I didn't know that. It's beyond me. I didn't know that part of the TOS. I don't know why you'd want to buy Facebook ads. That just shows that these people were inept too. Any sane person trying to influence anything is not going to do it on Facebook. Now, maybe make a free Facebook page. and then pay to share that up. But Facebook ads, nobody looks at those. I don't see ads when I use Facebook. I use ad blocking software. So I guess that the Russians couldn't have influenced my mind. Yeah, that's why it's sort of like wearing a tinfoil hat. It protects me from the Kremlin's mind control rays. You've got to have lost your damn mind. If you think that this probe is still legitimate and credible at this point, you have lost your mind. So no evidence of collusion. Trump knew nothing about it. Started years before. They liked Bernie Sanders too. Again, Bernie's fans, you should be angry right now at the DNC for, continuing the Mueller bullshit. I mean, it's obvious he's off his rocker. He's just stretching at this point, he's trying to maintain credibility. Here's what I think. I think that Mueller realizes there was no collusion, that literally the whole probe has been a waste of time. So he's trying to make a big deal, a lot of flowery language to make it look like a handful of private individuals, like some Russian nationals, Manafort's, 10-year-old money laundering, that those things add up to something substantial. Well, we really cleaned house. Thanks for the millions of dollars you threw at my probe and all the staff and the countless man hours we wasted, and the grand jury and Congress, everything else under the sun, testimony left, right, and center. Thanks for all of this wonderful stuff. Here's what we found. Some Russian people troll too. It's not just U.S. citizens. Sometimes they troll in a political manner. They don't even coordinate with the campaign. It's like a super PAC or something. Manafort laundered a lot of money with Tony Podesta years ago. There you go. Oh, and by the way, Michael Flynn does what everyone always fucking knew that he did, which was have improper contact with foreign governments. Not just Russia, but in the Mueller probe, Turkey. Yeah, that has a lot to do with Russian collusion. My goodness. Now, this is the funniest thing I've seen. People get all worked up about it. Look, yesterday it was all that you saw. Everybody had a live stream up. Oh, here's my thoughts on the Mueller indictment. Here's my thoughts on the 13 Russians. Here's my thoughts on whatever. Trump, he had to have colluded. Look, Russians liked him. Haha. Bernie Sanders, just ignore that part. Everybody was weighing in, and a lot of people, before Rosenstein even came out and exonerates Trump, by the way, in his fucking speech towards the end. Before that, they're like, oh, Trump's done for this time. I bet this has to do with Russian collusion. Then they find out that it's not, hours later. And so all of a sudden, nobody talks about it anymore. No, let's just spin the few part. Let's spin the one part where Mueller mentions that they put out pro-Trump material. We're not going to mention Sanders. We're not going to mention that Trump had nothing to do with this. We're not going to mention that these people had no impact on the election. We're not going to mention the fact that it was an extremely low-end sort of propaganda campaign. When you're talking about Facebook ads and some bots, you're not actually changing anyone's minds. You do realize that if a bot retweets something, just because you get 100 retweets doesn't mean that 100 people's minds were changed. It means a bunch of people retweeted it. In most cases, if somebody is retweeting Hillary for prison, they've already made up their mind on who they're going to vote for. The fact that they're retweeting it doesn't mean that they magically changed their mind, said, well, this hashtag convinced me. I'm going to vote for Trump. I was going to shill for Hill, but now I'm going to stump for Trump. That's not how it works. It couldn't have had an impact on the election. And a few 100,000 in Facebook ads. You realize how few people probably even saw those fucking ads? How few people clicked on them? Yeah, probably 10 fucking people. That's the way that Facebook ads work. That's why companies don't use Facebook ads. That's why Zuckerberg's losing money. That's why his stocks will collapse at some point. His company will stop existing, thank goodness. I can't wait till that happens. It's just screwy. It's just so dumb, and it's going to be used by the legacy medias. Well, we need more online censorship. We need to crack down on who can buy ads, who can make YouTube videos, who can tweet. Because these things are no longer apparently for entertainment. A few years ago, you would have said, that's just entertaining. This is all gimmicky tech stuff. Who's talking about politics on YouTube? Haha, YouTube political commentators, nobody will ever listen to them. Nobody's ever going to be influenced by a hashtag. No, they're going to listen to us here with our suits on CNN. Okay, well then keep using that logic. Stop being hypocrites. Stop being morons. Make up your fucking mind once in a while. But no, Mueller's 13 Russian indictments. Spooky stuff. Facebook ads. Russian bots. Kremlin money. Oh, goodness. Backing Bernie Sanders. Now, that would be a real way to destroy our country. Economically, we begin to look like Venezuela, probably. They wouldn't have wanted Trump. They would have wanted Bernie Sanders to win. Actually, if the Russians wanted to destroy the U.S., they'd back Hillary Clinton. Because her policies, look, we've been trying that kind of policies for years. They don't work economically. And she'd probably start a nuclear war. So yeah, they get to destroy us. It's just they get destroyed too. So even Stevens, the few survivors will be ghoulified and they can crawl back out and continue life. And they'll live a few hundred years and they'll be immune to radiation. Fallout tells me so. That's about all. Peace out.